On behalf of Cure Glaucoma Foundation, I want to thank Meredith Gale and Derek Welsbie for visiting us on June 19th, 2019. We had a very interesting discussion on collaboration and also the details of their CFC3 program. We hope you enjoy the video.
We'll just kind of dive in. Dr. Feldman, I was saying, I put together a slide deck that shows a little bit of an overview on us. We'll talk about our Catalyst for Cure projects in the past, and then I'll turn it over to Derek to talk about our current programs, the Catalyst for Cure Vision Restoration. And I just have to get used to it. Okay, here we go. So when you look at both of our missions, we have significant overlap, which I think is really wonderful. Ours is to cure glaucoma and restore vision through innovative research, and transformational research is there in you all's mission. So the opportunity for us to partner and really double down on our efforts against the fight in glaucoma is going to be promising. And I thought we could maybe talk through some things and kind of get an idea of, we have a little bit over lunch, getting into the research projects that you funded. But we'd love to hear from you all about, what got you interested in learning more about our Catalyst for a Cure and what your goals are when you seek out new projects to fund and kind of what that looks like for you and how we might be able to partner together a little bit more. I don't know about you, if you had any thoughts, when we first met and you heard about this project, what sent off the bells and whistles for you?
Well, for me, just because I'm involved with the GRF as well as the Glaucoma Foundation, and I know we're going through strategic planning, and I know what our vision is as well as what your vision is. I know that our visions align when it comes to certain things. We want to, the most important thing is finding that cure. And in as many ways as we can, we want to support the projects that we think are promising, as well as, just like we spoke about, wound healing. Wound healing is not something that is fun for everybody to do, but we believe as clinicians that it's important to do in order to take the patient. So it's that kind of mindset or view that forced me to actually talk to Tom at the last meeting. And I know about some of your research projects, and some of them we believe in. Not that there are some we don't believe in, but it would be nice to be able to partner with you instead of going to sort of revisit the wheel, so to speak, as well as carry out some of the other projects that we're doing.
Aren't you on their board?
I'm an ambassador. I've been for how many years?
Gosh,
I don't know.
Been an ambassador for them, yeah.
Well, as we go through, and if there's any other thoughts that you all have as we're chatting and things that seem like a great opportunity as far as your strategic planning efforts are going and what might align really well, we'd love to hear about that, so that we can kind of adapt as we go and figure out what some of those partnerships might be, and they're going to benefit everybody. So our organization was founded in 1978. And similarly to how you all funded Cure Glaucoma, it was by three partners, Dr. Schaefer, Hoskins, and Hetherington, who were in practice in San Francisco. Their practice is still in business. They've all since retired or passed. And the doctor who now owns the practice is actually our board chair. So we still have a very close relationship with that practice. And it's been wonderful. We've grown, our first gift came from an individual who was a patient that wanted to make a difference in research. And they were in private practice. They weren't doing any of their own research, so they said, let's seek out some opportunities to fund some transformational change. So it's been really exciting to see how it's grown over the past 41 years now. At the time, I think that was a $25,000, $30,000 gift. And now we're raising close to $5 million a year.
How long has Tom Brown been there?
Tom has been with us for 16 years.
Okay.
Yep. And he likes to say this is his third career. So he was an engineer with DuPont in the beginning. He developed some really impressive laser technologies, and then started some startups in between there, and then came to be our CEO. So he's got a wonderful depth of knowledge and a great background. But since our early days, we've really always been about speeding that pace of discovery. And that's what's so exciting about the work that Derek and his collaborators are working on right now. And for us, it's really about sharing that knowledge and how does this result in clinical solutions. So in addition to that, we also do a great deal of patient and community education. So in each of your blue folders that are on the table, we have some samples of these printed materials. It's what our ambassadors share with their patients across the country as a resource for the newly diagnosed and folks that have been living with glaucoma for decades. So our Understanding Living with Glaucoma booklet gets a kind of a reboot, a reissue every couple of years. We have a Spanish language version of that, which has been really helpful. And we have our Gleams newsletter that goes out to 130,000 recipients every quarter. Our website gets a wonderful amount of traffic at 4 million visits a year. And our Glaucoma 360, which is a wonderful 3-day symposium that we host for industry and clinicians. And we started a patient summit this year, which has been really wonderful. It allows us to bring together clinicians and patients in different panels, and it's been a real great empowerment tool for folks. And so we test drove it in our home turf in San Francisco, and it's going to be a traveling event annually now. We'll be in Chicago in May of 2020. So hopefully Dallas will be out there in the future for us. And then we've touched on our ambassador program, and we also are doing regional innovations in glaucoma forum events. So Derek, Dr. Welsbie spoke at one of those for us in Chicago in May. We've hosted one in New York. They're usually somewhat intimate gatherings, about 100 people, cocktail hour followed by a presentation and question and answers. And I have to say, with your talk and with Dr. Calkins, who spoke in New York, everyone came up to us, the patients that were there, and said, I was hoping that I might understand like 30% of what was said. Every single thing that they put out there made so much sense. It was really lay-friendly, and it was an awesome opportunity to really get that conversation going between patients and clinicians. So we've had great results with those, and we'll be doing a couple more in South Florida, and we're hopefully doing one in Houston and a couple other places across the country. So over the next year and a half, doing more of these. I think it's a great size venue to interact with folks, and for us, being a national organization, it's really meaningful to our patients when we go to them. And as far as our research goes, when we look at our Catalyst for a Cure, which is the larger group of research that we fund, we've been funding that since 2012. And we've had 3 teams of 4 over the years, and I'll dive a little bit more into that. But in addition to those larger grants that we give out, we do annual Schaefer grants. And those are awarded to young investigators for pilot projects and things like that. We have 8 grants this year that were awarded. They're each for $50,000. And we actually have a couple of international folks this year, which is really exciting. So one in Scandinavia, one in Canada. The doctor in Canada, Adriana DePaulo, is doing some really interesting work with insulin and glaucoma, and so we're excited about that. And interestingly enough, we were doing a video interview with one of our newer Schaefer Grant awardees and the donor that funded them, so they could kind of get to know each other. And it came up and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm working with Anna Latour, one of your collaborators." And so it's so neat to see that we've fostered so much collaboration that even across different groups of folks, they're all still working together. So it's really, really exciting.
Where in Canada is that?
She is in Montreal,
Okay.
I believe, and I know our current Schaefer grantee is in Montreal. I'm trying to remember where Adriana is.
I think she is, her and her husband are both,
Yeah.
they're both faculty, right?
Yeah. And I'm not sure for anyone that doesn't know a little bit more, this is kind of a deeper dive into what makes our Catalyst for a Cure successful. And I know you are probably all familiar with the typical model, when we go to get grant funding from the NIH and other places, we're looking to provide provide direct funding to our scientists that mandate them to collaborate. But that's not typically the way that it's done. And so for us, we want to make sure that the science is greater than the sum of its individual parts. So Derek and his teammates all were selected because they have very specific skills, so that when their labs come together, I think it's really remarkable. Our initial phase of funding is always 3 years with Catalyst for a Cure, and evidence of collaboration is what our continued support is contingent upon. So we really want to make sure that they don't all get their money, run to their corners, do their work that they were already doing, and then come back and say, we're ready for the next round. It's really neat to see the way the process is set up to foster that ongoing relationship.
So you have a committee that actually kind of oversees that?
We do. We have a scientific advisory board.
Okay.
It's actually chaired by Dr. David Calkins, who was one of our first round awardees of Catalyst for a Cure back in 2002. And he has a team of 7 or 8 across
Okay.
the country, different department heads and folks who are further along in their careers, and they review all
Okay.
of the applications. So
Got it.
this year we had 46 applicants, and we put out a call for entries, but then we also asked senior leadership across the country to recommend folks that they thought would be a good potential. All that we put out was we're doing a vision restoration initiative. Who do you think would be a great resource to that? And out of that, we got 46. We narrowed it down to about a dozen really viable candidates. They conducted video interviews with all of our scientific advisory board throughout the fall. And then Derek and our other 3 were chosen from that.
I'm very happy about it.
We are too.
How many other people do you have in your lab working on this with you?
So I have a postdoc, a lab manager, a project scientist, a technician, 4 undergraduates.
Okay.
So kind of all different types of people, some of
Yeah.
which whose salary I support, others who are volunteers.
And is each member in each lab like given a specific task or?
I'll actually talk about that in,
Oh, okay.
like, at least with this new Catalyst for the Cure, like how we're coming together, like what we each of us contribute.
Okay.
So here's the progression. The first phase of funding lasted almost 11 years. And Catalyst for a Cure 1 was really looking at mechanisms of progression and new therapeutic targets. And they were incredibly successful. And it was really exciting because at the beginning, we knew we wanted to do something transformational. We knew we wanted to think outside the box. But I don't even think there was one glaucoma specialist on that team. It was neuroscientists.
That's right.
And folks with different specialties that all had the tools to think about glaucoma, but they looked at it with fresh eyes. And so, their findings have now been cited nearly 8,000 times by other folks. So their work is some of the most cited in glaucoma research today. And we're really excited that they've all moved on in their careers. Most of them are department chairs now and are really senior. They've all stayed in glaucoma, which is really exciting, even though none of them started there. So that's something else that we've really seen as a wonderful bonus to the work that we're doing and the type of researchers that we're funding, is that we're attracting new talent to the field, which I think is really, really important. So from there, kind of piggybacking off of that mechanism of projection work, we went to our Catalyst for a Cure 2 team, and they worked in biomarkers for diagnostics and tracking progression. And some of the work that they've done has been really amazing around imaging and being able to take, so now, and Derek, you might be able to fine tune this for me, but from a layperson's perspective, being able to take pictures of living ganglion cells and not having to take a sample and then segment it and look at through a microscope, you can actually see through the picture with enough detail to see what's going on to aid in diagnosis and hopefully find some of those biomarkers that will let us know before you have vision loss or increased pressure, what's going on.
It's a lot like the adaptive optics OCT work, where you can actually image individual ganglion cells, then use morphology to say, okay, that ganglion cell looks sick, and therefore it's teaching me something about this patient.
Is it in vivo?
This is in people.
New clinical trials that have resulted from their work that are currently in progress. So we're really excited to see the results of that. And from that work, we've launched a new Catalyst for a Cure 3, which just started in February. It's the first time that Derek and Zen and Yang and Anna got together. And I don't think we've ever seen a team hit the ground running so quickly. So it's really remarkable what they're.
Well, they told us they have 3 years they had to cure the disease. I'm like, it started.
So it's tall order. Y'all are rising to the challenge. So these are our 4. And as you can see, Dr. Vaughn is at University of California in San Francisco. He focuses on ganglion cell physiology and anatomy. And you'll notice when you look at this, I'll let Derek do a little bit deeper of a dive, but it just so happens that for the first time ever, all 4 of our team are in the same state. And that was a surprise to us. When we finally looked at the finalists, and then we narrowed it down to who were the clear forerunners, who the 4 would be. Someone put their head up and said, "They're all in California. Should we mix it up and choose somebody else? To make it look like it's not, And it was unanimous that they just so happened to be there, and most likely be incredibly helpful to aid in their collaboration, but that these were the 4 that we needed. And Derek and I were talking about it this morning, and there's a good probability that the California Institute for Regenerative Medicine, that initiative that started back in 2004, probably had a lot to do with why there's so many great regenerative medicine scientists in the state of California, and we kind of lucked out as a fringe benefit to capitalize on that. So and Derek, I might switch over and let you kind of dive into yours from here, and then maybe I'll come back around at the end, but let him talk a little bit more about the initial episodes.
Do it as you see.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so just because there's a little bit of science here, it is useful to go over a very quick background, although I realize that we know a lot about glaucoma in this room. So very quickly, just understand that glaucoma, the primary injury happens at the optic nerve head. That damages the axons, or the nerve fibers of those retinal ganglion cells. And in response to that, you get this degeneration of the axon first, and then the cell dies because it's been disconnected from the brain. And then that just continues over time. So now you've seen the cartoon once, and it'll make sense with some of these other slides. Okay, so that's glaucoma. Then CFC3, or the catalyst for the cure, was like, okay, we got to be able to put those guys back. Let's replenish ganglion cells. And that's no small order. There's really a variety of reasons for that. So this is the team, and I'm not going to go over, actually let's go over the details. It is actually useful. So Anna is an expert in stem cell biology. So her expertise is taking stem cells and actually growing retinas in culture, which is incredible, right? That you can take a stem cell, you can take skin, turn it into a stem cell, then from the stem cell turn it into retina in a dish. And so leveraging that technology really allows you to study development in a much faster, more facile